This week, President Obama refusing to go to the U.S.-Mexican border, but guess where the president is planning to go? On vacation. News today that the Obamas will head back to ritzy Martha's Vineyard next month, an annual trip and one of many presidential vacations that you are helping to pay for. A vacation, perhaps from reality? President Obama going on vacation again. So is this a holiday happy presidency? It all starts in August 2009. President Obama is taking a vacation in Martha's Vineyard. The president taking his first personal trip in office, a week-long getaway to a secluded 28-acre estate costing $35,000 per week. A cost the Obamas picked up, but taxpayers still picking up a massive bill paying to House Secret Service and for Air Force One. Then, Christmas Eve 2009, a multi-million-dollar trip to Hawaii, all for some beachside rest and relaxation. Then 2010, a vacation-filled year. In April, the president goes to North Carolina. In May, Chicago. In July, Maine. In August, Panama City, Florida. And just days later, the president heads back to Martha's Vineyard. Where is everybody? Washington? It's empty. They're all on vacation. And in December 2010, another Christmas trip to Hawaii, which brings us to 2011. So where is President Obama at an important time like this? He's officially on vacation in Massachusetts on Martha's Vineyard for 10 days. And months later, back to Hawaii. The president is wrapping up his Hawaiian vacation, and he is headed to Air Force One. And then election year 2012, preventing a summer trip, but the president's still making it to Hawaii in December, but cutting it short to deal with the fiscal cliff. And then returning days later. The price tag on that second round-trip flight, more than $3.2 million tax dollars. The president right now, at this very minute, is in Hawaii playing golf. And in 2013, he's off to Palm City, Florida. President Obama taking on Tiger Woods on the golf course. And then back to Martha's Vineyard. President Obama is taking a vacation. Another posh estate. And in December, more than 2 weeks in Honolulu. And this time, serious controversy. The First Lady would remain behind in Hawaii as the president and his daughters flew back to D.C. on Air Force One. Now that means, at some later date, an empty Air Force plane will fly from Washington, D.C. to Hawaii to pick up the First Lady and fly her back to D.C. Total cost? An estimated $800,000. Which brings us to this year, with the president heading back to Martha's Vineyard. By our count, his 16th personal trip since the 2008 election. And that's not even including fundraising trips, diplomatic trips, or first family trips. All of them costing you, the taxpayer, millions of dollars. Okay, obviously, we have not compared the cost of other presidents' vacation trips, but you get the picture. Presidential trips are very expensive to us. Joining us now, our political panel, The Hill's Justin Sink, the Washington Examiner's Betsy Woodruff, and the Weekly Standard's John McCormick. You know, John, I don't begrudge people vacations, and the presidents do work on vacations, but the president's getting heat for all his.
I don't think people would care that he's going on a vacation if he were doing his job. The problem is that he's not leading on a number of issues, you know, from Iraq to the border crisis. You know, he could simply tell Congress that they need to go and pass a new bill. If this is all because of some loophole in a 2008 law, they can change that and he can sign it. You know, it's really strange how the president says he's got a pen and a phone and he can act without Congress. But when there's a tough issue, you know, think back to the Syrian issue, he said, well, I got to wait until Congress tells me what I can do. He's doing the same thing again with Congress. Rather than leading, he's stepping back and saying, let Congress work it out, instead of just proposing a very simple plan to treat, you know, children who come here from Central America like we do treat immigrants from Mexico and Canada.
Betsy?
Yeah, I mean, the optics could not be worse, but at the same time, you can't really blame him for wanting to take a vacation. The last couple of months have been probably not the most pleasant of his presidency. You've got the Bo Bergdahl PR debacle. You've got the drip, 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 drip of the agonizing VA scandal. You've got all the IRS emails. And then on top of all that, the president's recent fundraising trip to Colorado, the result was that Democrats from that state gave him an enormous berth. They didn't want to be seen with him.
And of course, then we had the picture of him shooting pool, which didn't, I mean, look, you know, I don't, like, it's like you can't begrudge these people for these trips, but what they give us, they look like they're shooting pool, playing golf, doing others when we have these huge crises.
Well, I think actually the White House, in a weird way, is encouraged by those types of images. They like to see the president outside of Washington, outside of the bubble. They know there's big dissatisfaction across the country with Washington, and they know that the president's the most popular when he's out on the campaign trail interacting with real people. And so they do see an advantage in these types of trips.
Do you think they high-fived over that shooting pool thing with the kids down at the border?
It was the front of the White House's website after they went out and did that pool trip. And in fact, you saw after they went to Hawaii, they got a lot of flack for that trip. But when the president came back, he was refreshed. He was on their economic message in a way that we haven't seen from him before or since. And so I think they see a big advantage there.
But even with that Hawaii trip, I mean, we paid for it twice. And we got to look, we have to protect the first family. They have to travel. I got all that, and I agree with that. But the reason he had to come back for that fiscal cliff thing was because he hadn't done his job. Washington hadn't done their job. So he came back to do it, and then we send him back out for another $3.2 million.
Well, I think it's fair to compare, I don't know exactly what liberals were saying about George Bush's trips, whether they were complaining. I know that he went to vacation back in his own ranch, so I think that, maybe people didn't see it as exotic as something like Martha's Vineyard. But, again, I think that there's only certain times when these optics look really bad. No one cares if the president likes golfing occasionally, but I go back to that issue where, we were almost about to bomb Syria. He gives this big speech at the White House, and then he goes out golfing immediately. There are times like that, and again, with this border crisis, we see the president sort of just having the worst optics possible.
And it doesn't get any better, does it, Betsy?
The talking points write themselves. He's been to Martha's Vineyard every single year he's been in office, except for 2012 when he was running.
Panel, thank you.